Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to kick things off right away with a pretty famous quote from H.L. Mencken. For every complex problem, there's an answer that is clear, simple, and wrong. It's incredibly tempting to look at the global stage today and just search for easy answers. But the geopolitical ground is literally shifting beneath our feet right now. And the reality? Well, it's anything but simple.
And that shifting ground is exactly what today's Explainer is all about, the impact of tech firms on world order. We're taking a really close look at how the companies behind the apps you use every single day to chat, to shop, to navigate, are fundamentally altering global power structures. They aren't just businesses anymore. They are absolute geopolitical heavyweights.
So, here's our roadmap for today. First, the next global superpowers. Then, the new tech arsenal. Third, tech on the battlefield. Fourth, tech and autocracies. And finally, options for global order.
Let's jump right in. Section 1, the next global superpowers, moving beyond the unipolar and multipolar world.
For decades, we've basically understood the world through a super-traditional lens, right? It was either a unipolar world dominated by one state or a multipolar world balanced by several, and we measured all of this by military and economic might. But here's the thing, we've officially entered a digital order. Today, digital firms themselves are the next global superpowers. Their influence is actually starting to rival, and in some cases completely outpace, traditional nation-states. They're the new architects of global power.
Moving on to Section 2, the new tech arsenal, 3 pillars of influence.
So how exactly are they pulling this off? Well, this new digital order rests on 3 distinct pillars. Number 1, computing and data centers. Think of this as the actual physical nervous system of the internet and AI. Number 2, space travel and satellite imagery. The ultimate high ground? Yeah, it's no longer exclusive to government space agencies. And number 3, communications and social media. This gives them the completely unrivaled power to connect, or frankly, disconnect, billions of people in an instant.
And that naturally leads us to ask, who holds the keys to these pillars? Right now we're witnessing the rise of very distinct, competing technology blocks. It's almost like a digital iron curtain, if you will. In the Western Bloc, you've got giants like Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Google, and SpaceX. Contrast that with the Eastern Bloc, which is driven by massive companies like Huawei, Hikvision, Dahua, and ZTE. Guys, these aren't just corporate competitors trying to sell you a phone. They are entirely different geopolitical architectures operating on a massive global scale.
Section 3, tech on the battlefield, active war zones.
Now, it's one thing to talk about data centers during peacetime, but what happens when the actual shooting starts? In the Ukraine conflict, tech firms have actively influenced the direction of the war. Just look at how Starlink's satellite network intersected directly with active state affairs. In a modern war zone, a Wi-Fi connection is practically as critical as ammunition. So when traditional infrastructure gets wiped out, that gap is being filled by private tech arsenals provided straight from corporate entities.
All right, Section 4, tech and autocracies, peacetime and population control. But listen, this immense power isn't just being flexed on active battlefields. Take a look at this number, 63. That is a truly striking data point from our source material. China has supplied intelligence and surveillance software to 63 different countries, and Russia is acting as a major exporter of these tools too. What we're looking at is a massive global exportation of digital control mechanisms, and it's directly utilizing that first tech pillar we discussed earlier, computing and data. Which, of course, brings us to a rather uncomfortable but totally vital question posed by our source material. Is the U.S. exporting intelligence software too? To fully grasp the reality of this digital order, we really have to look objectively at how all players across all blocks are participating in the global trade of data and surveillance. Because make no mistake, it is a worldwide digital arms race.
Let's bring this down to the street level for a second. Intelligence software and surveillance, they aren't just abstract ideas. They're actively deployed in our everyday environments. State actors are using advanced tracking in massive data centers to literally monitor populations down to the individual level, right on a city street. This is the profound reality we're dealing with. Everyday tech firms are building the exact tools being used for intense societal management.
And finally, Section 5, options for global order, zooming back out.
Given this absolutely immense shift in power, how in the world do traditional state actors, like NATO, the EU, and Russia, navigate this totally new reality? Just to establish a diplomatic baseline here, our source notes that the UN condemned Russia's invasion of Ukraine, mostly. And that word mostly is key,
because it highlights just how incredibly complex and fractured traditional geopolitical alliances are today. The old world order is out there trying to manage modern crises in a world where the underlying digital infrastructure is completely out of their direct control.
When we look at the immediate crisis in Ukraine, traditional actors are staring down 4 distinct hard power pathways. 1. No treaty at all, just holding out until Russia is expelled for a total Ukraine victory. 2. Keep fighting, mainly to leverage a better negotiating position down the line. 3. Start treaty negotiations right now. Or 4. A scenario involving further Russian incursion. These are your classic analog scenarios facing world leaders today.
So, to wrap up today's explainer, I really want to leave you with this one provocative question. What does an eventual treaty actually look like in the 21st century? In a world where the underlying communications, the intelligence, and the massive data centers literally belong to companies like Apple, Google, Starlink, and Huawei, how will these tech firms ultimately shape that final resolution? Traditional states might be the ones signing the paper, but the digital superpowers, they're the ones who will enforce the reality.